What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Around the Felt special edition episode tonight. It's Wildcard Weekend. I don't know if you noticed, Reagan. It's no longer Super Wildcard Weekend. I noticed the NFL kind of let that slide. It's just Wildcard Weekend again. But, man, it's a great slate of games we got this weekend. Starting off with tonight with the college football playoff. Notre Dame, Penn State. Tomorrow, Texas, Ohio State. And then we got all the wildcard games. Tonight, we're going to break down all 6 of those games and give our bracket predictions for the entire Super Bowl run. Reagan.
Yeah, this is correct. We do have 5 games in a row, or 5 days of games in a row. This is a factual statement. I am doing good. Thank you for asking. And yeah, I'm only planning on putting out one bracket this year, and I'm planning on hitting that bracket. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, we'll see about that, my friends. Luckily, there's no Cleveland Browns in the field for you this year, so you should be good to go. Let's start off with some news, though. Some news that pertains to a team playing this weekend. Baltimore ruled out their number 1 wide receiver, Zay Flowers, against the Steelers this weekend. Obviously, that's a big, big loss. Zay Flowers, the first Pro Bowl wide receiver in Ravens history, believe it or not. Which
that
is
actually crazy. Yeah.
It is nuts. But, hey, Rashad Bateman's been playing some good ball this year, so he'll have to step into that number 1 role with Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely. I still foresee the Ravens defeating the Steelers here. I think this is going to be a classic Steelers one and done, a Mike Tomlin special. But regardless, still a tough loss for Baltimore this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, no, I mean that definitely hurts. I was kind of shocked, but I mean, I guess that just tells you how injured he is because you would still take like a hobbled Zay Flowers, but I think that's going to be a massive loss because now you're relying on the likes of Rashad Bateman. I guess they'll probably run more 12 personnel where you have Andrews and Likely on the field. But they don't and then Deontay Johnson obviously didn't work out. So it'll be interesting to see like who is that number 2 receiver to step up because you would imagine like they're going to figure out a way to take him out of the game. But yeah, so now my audio is better. I'm going to give you even better thoughts. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see who steps up. And Rashad Bateman, I mean, now is the time you prove like why you were drafted in the first round. Like this is, where you make your legacy, I guess you could say. So, I mean, I still think the Ravens win this game, but 9.5 seems like a very high line to me. But I could be proven wrong. But we'll get into that in a little bit.
We'll get into it, brother. Don't jump the gun. Tyreek Hill obviously made some noise with his comments after the game on Sunday. His agent, Drew Rosenhaus, on the Pat McAfee show today says the wide receiver is committed to the Dolphins despite his post-game comments. Said those comments were a heat of the moment type of situation, and he had a great conversation with Mike McDaniel and the GM, Chris Greer, of the Dolphins, and they're all squared away. So it seems like Miami cooled down the fire a little bit, and they're going to keep Tyreek Hill in-house.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of my thoughts that would happen. But a lot will change. I mean, we still have the offseason coming up. So, they probably quieted him down for now. But that just tells me, if things go south early on next year, like you're going to hear it right away. So I don't know. I really don't know because he's obviously so dynamic and so key to that offense. And he had such a down year. So, is it just all the injuries and a down year for the Dolphins? Or maybe he's just on the back end and this is the start of the decline for Tyreek?
Yeah, so that's interesting too. Rosenhaus did say that he broke his wrist in the we knew he had a wrist injury, but he broke the wrist against the Commanders in the joint practice or the scrimmage, whatever it was, and that they had very high up risk doctors say you need to get surgery. You're going to miss the season. If you don't get surgery, this could be an injury that hinders you for the rest of your career. Tyreek Hill said, no, I'm going to play. I want to be there for my team. And, clearly that did hinder him all season, that injury. So, and then obviously losing Tua early in the season, like once that happens, the Dolphins offense just goes to the shitter. So I don't know. I got Tyreek Hill in one dynasty league, and I kind of think I'm going to hold on to him because I don't think his value is there right now. But next season, with him fully healthy and with Tua fully healthy entering the season, I think Tyreek Hill can go back to that guy that we saw last year. Maybe not wide receiver 1 or 2 level, like overall, but certainly a wide receiver 1 in totality, like a top 12 receiver. He certainly still has that upside.
100%.
I know you have Tyreek Hill in one league. You're not planning on moving him, right?
To be determined.
To be determined.
So you're open to the idea.
Any player can be moved for the right price. You're not doing your due diligence. There's never untouchable should never be a statement that you say about any player. Every player has a price tag. So, you won't be winning fantasy leagues if you're saying any player on your team is untouchable. And the people that do say that probably haven't won a fantasy league before.
You could say he's untouchable just to like kind of drive up the price, you
Nope.
know? And then
everybody's got a price tag.
Theoretically, no, like Justin Jefferson, someone would say, "Oh, he's untouchable," but you could offer him 8 first-round picks, and then he's then you can.
Well,
then he's
theoretically, you just don't beat around the bush. There's levels to this. You want to don't beat around the bush. You want a guy, you go and get him. Give that owner an offer he can't resist because everyone has a price tag.
Great analysis out of you, my friend. The final piece of news that we have for tonight, the Raiders fired their GM, Tom Telesco, after 1 season. This is the day after they fired Antonio Pierce, or 2 days after they fired Antonio Pierce. And I believe the reason for that, it's tough. For a GM to get 1 year, you really don't have time to put your footprint on the team, right? This is what we've seen around the league this year, where you bring in a new GM and a new coach together so they're aligned. Right, you're going in the same direction, and it's certainly more difficult to hire a head coach if you have a GM that's already in place. So I think apparently Tom Brady had a lot to do with this decision, and he was under the belief that we should bring in a head coach and a GM together so they're fully aligned. Obviously, the Jaguars did not go that route. They kept Trent Baalke to the surprise of many. But hey, this is where the Raiders are going, and I actually think it helps their chances of getting the coach that they want.
Yeah, no, I think it's the right move completely. I mean, now them and the Jets both have, are in that phase where they're aligning, and I just think that sets your team up for failure. I mean, I guess in the Raiders' case, you don't have a young quarterback, and I guess we still don't know. Well, I mean, I guess Aiden O'Connell's young, but I don't think he's their future. No. And we still don't know what route they'll be going, whether that's, the Aiden O'Connell route, if they're going to bring in a veteran, or if they will end up drafting a quarterback, whether that's at 6 or they trade up or trade back or in the second round. We don't know, but regardless, I mean, there's no quarterback put in place for the future, so there's nobody to really destroy by testing out all these options. But, they've just gone through so many different coaches and GMs over the past couple of years. Mark Davis has just got to figure this out, and hopefully Tom Brady, as a minority owner, can be a big piece in fixing this organization.
100%. That wraps up our news. Let's get Drock in the party, dude. Let's go.
Ooh, Drock's in the party.
Yeah.
Let's go. Super happy for all of our felters that are supporting us out there by buying merch and submitting questions. We have 1 question tonight, boys, but Drock's going to come in hot with some of his own tonight. So
let's go.
We got a Matt Churf for our first our first question and only question from the felters tonight. Do the Giants pick in the top 3 again in the 2026 draft? If not, what happens to avoid that?
I love the question, but I didn't expect it on Wildcard Weekend to be talking about my Giants being the bottom of the league again.
He's loving it because he's a Panthers fan, and all those Giants fans were talking so much crap the past couple of years. And then, obviously, you look at the directions the franchises are going in, Giants trending down, Panthers trending up. So he's getting his blows in, and he put it in the chat the other day, and I'm like, dude, that's a good question. You should submit it. And he's like, yeah, I will. So he did. I think they will finish bottom 3, and the reason why is I think Dable's seat is so hot, as well as Joe Shane's, where you're not doing them any favors, and I think they're going to end up making a move during the season, and it's just going to hurt the team. So, yeah, I do. But, I still don't think it's the right move to bring those guys back. I would have liked to see them reset everything, and maybe the fact that they ended up with a 3rd pick changed the way they wanted to go. Because if they had number 1 or number 2 where you're getting Shador or Ward for sure, maybe they do get rid of both guys. So I do wonder if where they're picking in the draft factored into that decision making.
Well, I hate to say it, but I think the Giants will be picking top 3 again next year, potentially number 1. It all depends what they do with the quarterback situation. They're going to bring in multiple guys. I have a strong feeling they're going to bring in a vet and try to draft a rookie, whether that rookie is going to be at pick number 3 or later on on day 2 potentially. But they'll have a rookie, they'll have a vet. As you mentioned, their seats are already scorching hot, so a slow start, and they could be out. And then you look at the Giants' schedule next year. So you got Dallas, Philly, Commanders, home and away, right? Your other home opponents. This is home, right? Where you should have an advantage. Green Bay, playoffs. Minnesota, playoffs. The Kansas City Chiefs, playoffs. The Chargers, playoffs. And the 49ers, not playoffs, but let's be honest. If you're going to draw a team that did not make the playoffs, the 49ers is probably the team you don't want to draw. On the road, Chicago, okay. You can take Chicago down. Denver, playoffs. Detroit, playoffs. And then the soft part of the schedule, Vegas, New Orleans, New England. You look at that and you're like, you know what? Chicago, Vegas, New Orleans, New England, those are 4 teams also picking in the top 10. Outside of that, every team on your schedule is a playoff team. That's insane, bro. Out of 17 games, 13 of those games are against obviously you're playing the Commanders, the Cowboys, the Eagles twice, but 13 of those games are against playoff teams. That is brutal. Based off strength of schedule from this past season, that is the most difficult schedule in the league. Yeah, unfortunately, my Giants will be bad again next year.
Good thing they have King Drock to steer his kingdom in the right direction.
He's in his kingdom. Dude, I was watching that last night. Clearly, I had a couple drinks in me, but it was funny to watch Drock and just the progression of he's in his kingdom started. Like that just came out of nowhere week 2. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
What, of this year or last year?
Of this year.
Oh, you didn't do that at all last year?
Nope. It's a new thing for Drock. I guess he just picks up one new thing each year.
No, I feel like last year you just said like, oh, we're at MetLife Stadium. This year it became your kingdom. And, you know, of course, when it became Drock's kingdom, they won 1 game at home. So
yeah, I mean,
horrible kingdom.
Now, how about next year we just hit picks if we're adding things?
yeah. We'll discuss that in the offseason. We'll work on it. All right. Drock's got a couple of his own questions tonight. First question for Drock. Is this Mike Tomlin's best coaching job yet if the Steelers pull off a win?
No, because he won a Super Bowl. But
yeah,
what
outside of the Super Bowl, though, you could make the argument because what else has he done? Seriously, the playoffs. What else has he done?
The last time they won a playoff game was 2016, so it's been a while. I mean, his coaching record in the playoffs has gone downhill. I mean, he's a name. I don't think they would move on if it's one and done, but you definitely got to think at a certain point. It's like, look, like it's great, we're relevant every year, but like, we're not going anywhere. And I also wouldn't be shocked if he leaves. I mean, at some point, somebody's got to move on here because it's just too stagnant and it's just the lack of or the inability to even move on, let alone like, you know, I'm not even saying they got to win a Super Bowl, but like, you know, maybe get to the divisional or the AFC championship, show some sort of progressions. But until they figure out the quarterback position and stop trying to throw Band-Aids on it, they'll have no chance because they seemingly have a good defense every year. They just can't figure out the offense year in and year out.
You're 100% right, man. This is the Mike Tomlin special. You're going to have a winning season every year. You get to the playoffs and you're disappointed and it's a first-round exit. That's what's going to happen again this weekend, in my opinion. Baltimore is a 9.5-point favorite. So, yeah, you could sell me on outside of the Super Bowl if they do pull off the upset on the road in Baltimore with Russell Wilson at quarterback. It's certainly his best head coaching job since 2016. You could argue it was better than 2016 as well. But I just don't think that's going to happen. And I agree with you. It's like at some point you need a new face in the building. I mean, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Andy Reid in Philadelphia. And, you know, Andy Reid, obviously a hell of a coach even back then, but you just need a new voice in that locker room. I still don't think that's going to happen. Tomlin he has a no trade clause in his contract, so I don't see him getting traded. I don't see him wanting to leave, but they are going to have to figure out the quarterback position once and for all and get a franchise caliber guy. It's just when you consistently win at this level, you're consistently picking between 18 and 24 in the draft, and it's very difficult to get a quarterback. They tried with Kenny Pickett in that range. Clearly did not work. He's now a backup in Philadelphia. So it'll be tough for Pittsburgh to figure out that position given how they produce every year.
Second question Drock's got for us. Will Herbert prove he's a franchise quarterback by delivering a clutch playoff win this weekend?
Clutch times 2. I think he's bringing the Chargers to the AFC Championship. I'll get into that a little bit later. But I really like the way this team's playing, and I really like how the bracket's going to set up for them, where I think, you know, if they travel to Kansas City, that's a very winnable match. But I know, you know, the Chiefs, you can't just like sleep on them, but the Chargers, both games this year were very close, where I think stylistically they match up very well, and Herbert does not turn the ball over. I believe he only had 4 interceptions this year. So, you know, they're going to be in that game. They're going to play good defense, and you don't have to worry about him putting them in bad positions. He's going to take care of the football game. So I really think, this team is a dark horse to win the Super Bowl. I'm not picking them. I'm not that crazy, but I wouldn't be. If you told me they're in the Super Bowl, would I be shocked? No.
I'd be shocked if they made the Super Bowl, given the caliber of Baltimore, Buffalo, and of course Kansas City. I already think Justin Herbert's a franchise quarterback, but obviously there's a sour taste in his mouth from a couple years ago. I also anticipate them winning this weekend, and Herbert, I think, will have a phenomenal game against Houston, but it's going to be difficult for him to get past Kansas City, man. I don't see that happening, but if he does, I would say most people already consider Justin Herbert a top at least 7 quarterback in football.
Yeah, top 10 for sure.
Yeah, right. If you make a deep run, if you do beat Patrick Mahomes in the divisional round to move on the AFC Championship game, you're going to be being thrown up there with Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, in my opinion.
Wait, if he does what?
If he does defeat Patrick Mahomes in the divisional round and moves on the AFC Championship game,
bro, if he defeats them, I'm putting him in front of all of them. To be honest,
you'd put Justin Herbert ahead of Lamar Jackson if he met up with Lamar Jackson in the AFC Championship game and Lamar has two MVPs.
If Lamar beat him, then that's a different story. But going into that game, I'd be like, I want Herbert. Herbert got it done.
So you think if Herbert gets to the Super Bowl, you would put him as the second best quarterback in football behind Mahomes?
Yeah. Dude, because that means he got through. That means he got through Mahomes and then went and got through the guys that everyone's putting in front of him too in the meantime. Think about it. And if you look at the weapons he has too on offense, think about it. It's not like he has these world beaters at wide receivers, and I guess you can say the same things for Lamar. But I guess Lamar's got some good weapons. He's got Derrick Henry, and Josh Allen doesn't have the craziest core, but still, I would take the Bills' offensive core and the Ravens' offensive core over what the Chargers have right now.
I would too.
So, obviously, if they get to the Super Bowl, a lot of it's their defense, but you would have to think Herbert's putting up crazy numbers to get them through on offense as well.
Yeah, if they get to the Super Bowl, Justin Herbert was Superman.
I think everyone would be overreacting and saying he's the second best quarterback.
Yeah, that's a really good
Reagan making insane argument points and calling it green. This is maybe first time on a Round with Felt podcast.
I know. I mean,
my son always agrees with me.
It's hard to oh, chill with that. It is hard to argue if Herbert does go through Mahomes and go through Allen/Lamar, whoever is left, assuming they get to that point. Baltimore wins this week, Buffalo wins. It's statistically in the regular season, Herbert's not on the Allen and Lamar level, but what always hinders those two guys is they can't get past Mahomes. They can't get to the Super Bowl. If Herbert does it, going through Mahomes and then also one of those guys, statistically, you can't make the argument, but just the eye test and what he's done in the postseason, you can make the argument.
Plus, dude, I don't care about the regular season stats. Look at Mahomes. He had a down year last year, and everyone's like, I don't know. And then he just goes and does Mahomes things and wins the Super Bowl. So, yeah, awesome. Lamar won the MVP last year and put up ridiculous numbers. And then Mahomes came in and just showed, hey, I could turn it on whenever, and I'm on a whole nother level that you're not on now and may never be on.
Valid point.
Last question of the night. Which team is most likely to pull off a shocking upset?
I think if we're just going in round one, I'm saying the Commanders. I love that matchup against the Bucs. I really don't think the Bucs are that good of a team. They're very banged up on the defensive side of the ball. And obviously it's going to be tough for them to get the run game going against the Bucs, but I do think Jaden Daniels and Terry have a big game. And I like Dan Quinn in this one, to be honest. Dan Quinn, let's not forget, had the Falcons not only in the Super Bowl, but, was one of the worst choke jobs away ever from being not only, in the Super Bowl, but a Super Bowl winning coach. And I think a lot of people view him differently. He may still freaking be in Atlanta if they win that Super Bowl. So I like Dan Quinn a lot more than Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles is yet to prove that he's a good coach. He can have some good winning seasons, but at the end of the day, I don't think anyone looks at him as he's going to take you to that next level. So I really do think the Commanders get the upset this weekend.
Yeah, so I do have spoiler alert, I do have all the favorites taking it home on the money line this week.
Chalky motherfucker.
Commanders were the one for me where I was most tempted to pick the upset, but I ultimately did not, for the same reason that I'm not going to pick Denver for this question because of a rookie quarterback and it's just really difficult for rookie quarterbacks to win in the postseason when you're going against vets that have experience. So I'm going to go with Green Bay. Everyone just seems to be writing Philadelphia into the NFC Championship game. And don't get me wrong, I do have them in the NFC Championship game too. But after what we saw, what the Packers did last year to Dallas, just steamroll them in their own building when Dallas was a really good team. Jordan Love always heats up at this time of the season. I know it's going to be tough not having Christian Watson, but that Packers team is still so well coached and very dangerous that it would not shock me if they went into Philadelphia and got the upset.
Yeah, I don't like that one at all. I would say the difference is this Philadelphia team is a hell of a lot better than that Dallas team last year. And also Green Bay was rolling kind of going into the playoffs, where right now they've looked very, very bad. And they're just like limping into the playoffs right now. I think Green Bay is the first round to exit. I think Philly completely handles them this week.
I got Green Bay covering. I got Green Bay covering the 4.5.
Wow, so you think it's going to be close? Yeah, no, I do. I think that's foolish on your part. A fool.
That's fine. That's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to mine. And mine all year were clearly much better than yours statistically. So
back to arguing.
You must have a fantasy belt, right? Or
I don't have a belt, but I did win 3 championships this year. So I think I know what I'm talking about. That's fine. That wraps up the questions, Drock.
Yep, that's all the questions tonight.
Let's go. Appreciate you, brother. We got 6 games to break down. Shall we, Reagan?
I think we shall.
Starting off with the Saturday slate, the 4:30. The staples of the 4:30 Saturday slate, the Houston Texans, are the home team, hosting the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers a 3-point favorite, though. 42.5 point total here. Hey, we just hyped up Justin Herbert and those Chargers, man. I know you're picking the Chargers.
I am picking the Chargers. I am a little worried back in my mind that I'm like, what if this is just the Browns all over again? And I'm like hyping up this team going in where it's like they've been rolling and it's like they should just stomp on the Texans, and it's just 2.0 where everyone's fading the Texans and it's like, hey, they're the home team. Like they won their division and they just take care of business like last year. But ultimately, I'm going with the Chargers here. I do think they can win this one by double digits. And I will say this Texans team looked a lot worse this year compared to last year. And it's funny because they got better on paper, but some injuries down the stretch definitely hurt your team. And
the play of Stroud.
Yeah, and the play of Stroud, and the offensive line is not good. And the Chargers have a very good defense. And, obviously there were times they struggled this year against some of those elite offenses, but I don't view Houston as an elite offense. So I think the Chargers, muck up the waters. They play their brand of football, and I think this is low scoring. I definitely lean the under for sure. But I can see the Chargers winning this one like 21-10, where it's kind of just they're in control the whole time. They score some early touchdowns, and they kind of just coast in the second half.
I also got the Chargers, man, and I have them covering the 3 points. Look, the last time we saw Houston fully, because they sat their guys this past weekend, the last time we saw them week 17, Baltimore just steamrolled them 31-2. That is not how you want to enter the playoffs, right? On that note, Stroud was struggling. The red zone offense was terrible. Chargers, another really good defense like Baltimore, where I think it's going to be a problem. And honestly, with the way Stroud has looked this year, no more Diggs, no more Tank Dell. It's going to be all on Nico Collins. Jim Harbaugh understands that. It's going to be Joe Mixon, but it's not easy to run the ball in this Chargers defense. The way Stroud's been playing, I have a lot more faith in Justin Herbert than CJ Stroud. I have a lot more faith in Jim Harbaugh than D'Amico Ryans. So although the Chargers are on the road, I don't care, man. I love the Chargers in this one. I would stay away from the over-under. I actually think the Chargers could very sneaky score like 24, 27 points, led by Herbert and Ladd McConkey having a big day, working out of the slot because you got Stingley on the outside. So he'll be probably on Quentin Johnson, who's coming off a career game. But yeah, I like the Chargers here in this one for sure.
Let's go. Bolt up.
Bolt up, baby. Now, Saturday night, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens, a 9.5 point favorite, a 43.5 point total. That is a fat spread for a playoff game. That's a fat spread for a playoff game between two division foes.
Yeah, that's why I am taking the Steelers to keep it close. I do think the Ravens will win this. But the injury with Zay Flowers made me like this pick even more. But it's just so many points, and it's kind of disrespectful to Pittsburgh where, I even heard there's a chance of snow, so I even like it more then. But I don't know. I think this one's low scoring. Ultimately, like Baltimore's offense just will have too much firepower that they won't get the win, or that they will get the win. But I gotta see it being like 17-14, like, maybe comes down to a Justin Tucker field goal at the end where Lamar has a good drive. But, I could see the Steelers being up even in the fourth quarter and giving those Ravens fans a little bit of a scare. But ultimately, I do have the Ravens winning. I will be in a 10 dance at the tailgate, rocking my Steelers shit. Big Ed, shout out to you for hooking me up with some Steelers
Let's
merch.
go.
So I don't know what we're gonna do for that. Maybe I'll just give someone the phone and be like, yo, we're gonna live stream for 20-30 minutes and just walk around the tailgate and maybe mess with some people or have some, I might not even have to do it. People might just be like, yo, fuck you, bro, and we'll go from there. But we'll see how that one goes. But Ed definitely hooked me up with some Steelers merch. So, I just can't take the upset, though. I can't.
Nah, you can't take the upset, dude. This just screams Mike Tomlin special. Come on. And look, the Steelers are coming in here riding a 4-game losing streak. Yuck. And they just played Baltimore in week 16, so 3 weeks ago, at Baltimore, and Baltimore beat them 34-17. Now the Steelers are reeling.
I believe they didn't have George Pickens in that game. And I know he had a dud of a game last week, but I believe they did not have George Pickens. So that obviously is massive for the offense.
It is, but was it massive last week?
No, but I mean, do we know
he's their number one receiver, though? I got it. I got it. Hey, I understand. All right. But I don't think George Pickens making up for 17 points in that game. So that's why I'm going to take
clip it, bro, after he goes for 8 for 202 and they win.
That's why I'm going to take Baltimore to cover the 9.5. Even if it's snowing, I don't care because Najee Harris is not nearly the back that Derrick Henry is. Najee Harris will struggle against this Baltimore front where Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, I know that Steelers front is good, but their defense has been pretty bad the last 4 to 8 weeks, man. It just has been. They've been letting up a ton of points. I don't have the same faith in the Steelers defense as I had in the past. I think Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson could run all over him, even if it's in the snow. Lamar will carve him up in the air when he needs to, even if he only has to throw the ball 15, 18 times. Doesn't matter. Baltimore's going to win here. Russell Wilson is really, really going to struggle. And I think this will be Russell Wilson's last game as a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Wow. That's bold. That's bold.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be their future.
Well, you could argue he'd come back for another year. They made the playoffs, but no, I'm not going to make that argument. I think Russell Wilson's out the door. And they have to make a decision on Justin Fields, who I hope is a New York Giant. But beside the point, let's move on to the Sunday slates at 1:00. We got the Denver Broncos as 8.5 point dogs to the Buffalo Bills. The over-under is 47.5. The Bills, 8-0 in Buffalo. Tough to call an upset here with a rookie quarterback as 8.5 point underdogs. There's no way you're doing it, right?
Well, I am done doubting the Broncos in the sense that, that they're not a legit team because they are a legit team. They have a very good defense. And I think because they have a very good defense, they'll be able to do enough to hang around in this game and cover the spread. But yeah, the Bills will win. Josh Allen will ultimately, eventually, if they're able to bottle him up in the beginning and have a good game plan, he's just too good to contain the whole game. So eventually he will break off some big throws and some big runs and do Josh Allen things. But I could see, maybe going into the fourth, maybe it's a 10-point lead for the Bills. Broncos make it close with backdoor cover. It's just a lot of points. And, I'm just not going to doubt the Broncos that they're, not going to at least put up some sort of fight. And Sean Payton's proven like he is a good coach when he has his guy.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, man. I got Baltimore covering, Denver covering, but Buffalo's going to win the game here. I'm not going to predict that they're going to lose their first game at home against a rookie quarterback. As much as I love
hilarious.
It would be crazy, bro. It would be all the hype that Josh Allen was getting for his MVP case. And then if they do lose this game, everyone's be like, oh, it's why it's Lamar. And it's like, well, it's an MVP for the regular season. It doesn't include the playoffs. But, if they did get a first-round exit, it could factor into some voters' minds.
What if both teams got bounced in the first round? The Ravens and the Broncos, or the Ravens and the Bills. That'd be so freaking funny.
It would be funny. It would be. It would, but I'm not going to project that. But yeah, Denver, Bo Nix has been on fire. Cortland Sutton's been awesome. That defense has been great. You got to trust Sean Payton, a Super Bowl winning head coach, to have his team ready to play. I just think Josh Allen is too big of a beast. It's just too big of a hill for the Denver Broncos to climb. I do think this will be a competitive game, and I do think it could be a low-scoring game. It could also be a shootout. I think go either way. So I would stay away from the total as well in this one, but come on. You can't go against the Buffalo Bills. They got their eyes set on much bigger things than Denver Broncos.
Wonder if Marvin Mims continues his streak dude's been on fire as well.
He has been, dude. He has been playing really
Like
well.
the past 2 weeks, he's just been cooking. I think he had 2 touchdowns in both games the past 2 weeks.
That's nuts.
I mean,
And that's
all-pro Marvin Mims.
Very
as a
important to
returner.
their offense, too. He adds a different element with his speed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was an all-pro as a returner in his rookie year. Like, his speed is next level.
Yeah. I do think Denver will struggle to run the ball, though, in Buffalo.
I mean, they've struggled to run the ball all year, though. That's why
Yeah.
they've, like, traded hands between Estime, Javante, and Julio McLaughlin. Like, I don't even think they know who their number one is. It's, like, such a, like, hot hand approach. I guess if you put a gun to my head and ask me who it is, I guess I'd say McLaughlin, but, I don't know. Bo Nix will probably be their leading rusher.
Yeah, Bo Nix probably will be. It's not going to be too cold on Sunday in Buffalo either. It's going to be...
It doesn't even worry me about the cold. It gets
30,
cold in Denver and snows in Denver. Like,
30 to 32.
I'm not worried about Denver having to deal with the cold.
No, I'm just pointing it out, the weather. I was just checking to see if it's going to snow in Buffalo. It's not going to snow. It's not going to be too cold, so the passing attacks will be firing on all cylinders, I believe.
Yeah, and honestly, if it did snow, it would just play into the favor of Denver. I feel like bad weather plays in the favor of a bad team or the worst team.
Yes, yeah, it definitely. The variance isn't as high. Like you can keep the game closer when you have inclement weather like that. You can slow down Josh Allen more, I think, but he also loves playing in the snow. But that's not a problem for this week. Let's move on. The Green Bay Packers, 4.5-point underdogs at the Philadelphia Eagles. The total 45.5. This is our 4:30 game Sunday afternoon. You love these Philadelphia Eagles. I'm predicting that you're going to have them winning the Super Bowl in your brackets. So tell me why they're going to blow out the Green Bay Packers.
They're just the more complete team. I mean, they've been rolling all year. I mean, to me, they are the best team in the NFC. I know a lot of people will be like, bro, it's the Lions. Like, what are you talking about? But the Eagles are healthy. They'll be getting Jalen Hurts back. And even if they don't, Tanner McKee obviously will ball out. Dude's a stud. Future, Nick Foles story arc in the making. But no. I mean, this team's just complete on both sides of the ball. Where on the Green Bay side of things, they're dealing with a lot of injuries right now. You just lose Christian Watson, who's like just such a key factor to that offense. I mean, you're just putting a lot of pressure now on the other receivers, but also Josh Jacobs, because that just gives the Eagles more chances to be like, hey, Jordan Love, you can beat us with your cast of wide receivers. We're not going to let it be the Josh Jacobs show where he gets the ball 30 times a game. You're going to beat us as a passer. And guess what? Philadelphia has a much improved secondary. It ain't the same Eagles team we saw get cooked by Baker Mayfield and the, number 3, number 4, number 5 wide receivers last year in Tampa Bay. So I think the Eagles get this done. I think they win by double digits here, and they're sitting pretty going into the divisional round.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I have the Eagles winning, but I do have the Packers covering, and it's just the game script that I'm anticipating because they will not cover the spread if these things don't happen. One, Josh Jacobs has to be the fuel of this offense. He needs to get 25 carries. For that to happen, this has to be a close game, and he has to be effective on the ground. That offensive line for Green Bay, which is a good one, is going to have to deal with a lot up front against that Philadelphia defensive line. So that's number one. Number two, I think Tucker Kraft has to be heavily involved. I think the Green Bay receivers will struggle without Christian Watson against his Philadelphia secondary. Jaden Reed did light these guys up week 1, so Jaden Reed is going to have to be that number one guy. He can't be kind of a ghost like he has been the back half of the season where, sometimes he scores some touchdowns, but the targets aren't there, the receptions aren't there, the yardage isn't there. He's going to have to be a much bigger part of the offense. I think Green Bay's defense will do a good job of containing the Eagles' offense. I think Hurts is going to struggle in this one, but I think Saquon Barkley is going to have an awesome game. He historically has played well against Green Bay, so Eagles are going to win. They're at home. They're 8-1 at home. It's really tough to go to Philadelphia and win, especially in this type of environment in the playoffs.
What the
Whoa! Whoa!
Is that my alarm clock? Oh, no, that's a smoke alarm.
Your smoke alarm's going off, dude. I'm sorry, Seltzers. Dude, I jumped.
I thought I didn't even I couldn't even tell if it.
Bro, I thought that was our building for a second. I freaked out.
I was like, oh no.
All right, hold on. Just pause. Hold on.
All right, we're back after Reagan's fire alarm was going off, but luckily it was great timing. I just finished my point on the Packers-Eagles game, so it was good timing, man. I don't have to go through that again. Thank you.
Fire has been put out. I am a freaking firefighter. Yeah.
Enough of that. All right, Sunday Night Football, the Commanders at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs are 3-point favorites at home with a 50.5-point total, the highest on the slate this weekend. Although the Commanders went 12-5 and the Bucs went 10-7, they're saying on a neutral site this would be a pick 'em. They're giving the Bucs the 3 points at home. Hey, this is a tough matchup for me, man, because you got the dynamic rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels, but you have a Tampa Bay team that's been in the playoffs 4 consecutive seasons. So they've been there. They've done it. They had a big upset last year against Philadelphia with Baker Mayfield at the helm. I know you're going with the commies.
I'm going with the commies. Yeah, because, these teams did play week 1, and they played in Tampa Bay, and I know Tampa Bay blew the bricks off of the Commanders, but this Commanders team is a lot different. Jaden Daniels is a hell of a lot better of a player. He is now going into the first round of the wild card, 18 games in versus game 1. So, I like this Commanders offense a lot more. I like this Commanders defense a lot more. And, the Bucs are just dealing with a lot of injuries on the defensive side of things. And guess what? If Marshawn Lattimore plays like that a lot even more.
Yeah, Lattimore versus Evans.
So that'll be good too. Even if they both get ejected, it's still worth it. But yeah, ultimately, I think the Commanders get it done. And if they can really unlock Brian Robinson in that run game early on, the Bucs could be in some serious trouble.
I'm going to go with the Bucs to win and cover. I don't anticipate Brian Robinson getting hot early. I think they're going to struggle to run the football. It's going to be on Jaden Daniels. And although I think Jaden Daniels is a superstar, it is his first start as a rookie quarterback, which is always difficult in the postseason. And I just have a lot of faith in Baker Mayfield's offense. I think the Buccaneers offense has a lot more weapons than Washington's does. With the emergence of Jalen McMillan and Bucky Irving, it's been huge for them, the 2 rookies. And I like the Tampa Bay offensive line more than I do the Commanders. And then the Bucs are also at home. This was the most difficult one for me to project. But ultimately, I'm going to take the team that's been here. They have done it. They have the veteran leadership. Give me the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man. And my boy Baker Mayfield. Come on, Bake. Come on. Baker's going to bake. You hate that pick, don't you?
I just hate what you said. Baker's going to bake. Like,
yeah, it's going to happen.
You motherfucker.
All right, Reagan, the last game on the slate.
What is that like? You've been watching the Costco guys and some like those, that's way too much of that stuff. Baker's going to bake.
I don't even know. I don't know what that is. I don't know what the Costco guys are. I don't have TikTok.
5 big booms. Boom, 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 boom.
That's a doom that he's trying to act all cool for it. Like, bro, you have a girlfriend. There's no girls like watching being like, oh, he's so cool because he doesn't know who the Costco guys are. Like, quit lying.
I don't have TikTok.
Colin gets a big doom.
Doom.
You guys are clowns. All right, Monday Night Football. The Minnesota Vikings at 14-3 are a point favorite over the Los Angeles Rams at 10-7. Total 47.5. This one's interesting because the key starters for the Rams rested last week, so they're basically coming off a bye, while Minnesota geared up for that game against Detroit for the number 1 seed and got their brakes blown off. Tough one, man. Where'd you land?
I went with the Vikings, man. I'm done doubting them. I mean, you went out and won 14 games this year, and 2 of your 3 losses were to the Detroit Lions, a very good football team. So it's like, and the other one was to the Rams, but that could have gone differently. I mean, it ended up being a 10-point loss, but it came down to the wire, and there was that weird, missed face mask in the end zone where Sam Darnold literally got his head ripped back. Then somehow they just didn't call it for the safety, and then the game was over. So, that gets called. Vikings may have won that game, and then they're 15-2. So, ultimately, I'm just going to go with them. I think, stylistically, I like the matchup. I think, if the defense can get some pressure on Stafford, don't give them time to sit back and just hit Kupp and Nakua, bottle up Kyron, it can be huge. And I think Sam Darnold will have a bounce back game. I mean, think about it. He is not playing for millions. He is playing for hundreds of millions here. I mean, this is, depending on how this playoff run goes, we're talking the difference of $100 million.
That's a great point that I want to get back to after I give my thoughts in this game. But I ultimately took the Vikings as well. I know they lost to the Rams. As I just mentioned, Rams kind of a little bit more rested right now. But let's be honest, the Minnesota Vikings are a better team from top to bottom. I love the way Darnold's played all year. I trust their weapons on offense. I trust their offensive line to contain this young Rams pass rush. I think the Vikings have a big bounce back. I know their offense struggled last week. The red zone offense struggled. I don't foresee that happening. I think the Vikings can hang 28 to 35 points in this game for sure. And Brian Flores loves to blitz. The Rams' offensive line, yes, much improved this season, but still Stafford can't move like he once could. And I see him getting sacked quite often in this game, puts it behind the sticks, and then you're not going to be able to have those throws downfield to Puka Nacua, which is what they need to win this game. Give me the Vikings here. They're just the better team. And to your point with Sam Darnold, dude, he's playing for a lot. He's got so much on the line here, and it's very interesting because I think what happens this weekend and potentially the next few weekends to come completely determines what the Vikings are going to do in the offseason at quarterback. If Sam Darnold leads them to the NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl, you can't just let the guy leave the building, right?
Well, yeah, that, but also like you're talking, is he going to get like 30 million a year? Or is he going to get like fifth, like highest paid quarterback in football cut time kind of money? You know what I mean? Because if he gets into the, even the NFC Championship game and it's like they lose, but it's not because of him and he just balls out the whole playoff run, like, you would imagine like at his age, like he's going to want to reset the market. And it's hard to argue that with the season he had and, if they went that far in the playoffs, that you wouldn't let him set the new record for the highest paid quarterback in football, knowing that like, down the line, whoever's up next will just break it anyway. But you would imagine like you could become close to a 60 million a year guy.
Yeah. I mean, if they do make that deep of a run, let's be honest, Daniel Jones got 4 for 160 after one playoff win. Darnold is going to be getting at least 50 million a year.
At least. Yeah. So you would think they might offer him 5 for 60.
I think no matter what, Minnesota's going to tag him, so they at least have him, and they could. I think they're going to have the flexibility to tag him. But hey, if Darnold throws up a dud this weekend and they get knocked out in the first round despite winning 14 games in the regular season, maybe Minnesota's like somebody, but maybe it's not Minnesota, and they're like, you know what, Sam was great for us this year. We're not going to commit that amount of money to him because we do have JJ McCarthy waiting in the wings. And maybe they let Sam walk in that situation.
Well, I would still think they would tag and trade him, if anything. Like, I don't think there's a world where he walks.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, you could tag him and trade him. Someone's going to give him that extension. But then it's like, if they do make a deep run, Mel Kiper was saying today that, hey, JJ McCarthy could be available if they're going to re-sign Sam Darnold to a long-term deal. This isn't a situation where it's like Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix because Kirk Cousins was 35. Sam Darnold's only 28 years old,
Not even 27.
He's 27, even better, right? So he's not like that old guy where then it's like, hey, JJ McCarthy becomes available. And I mean, there's no doubt with the teams that need a quarterback, the Giants, the Raiders in the top 10. One of those teams would be willing to give up that pick in the top 10 plus some other draft capital farther down the board to get JJ McCarthy. So you could be the Minnesota Vikings. There's a scenario where you make it to the Super Bowl. You could even potentially win it, right? You sign Darnold to a long-term deal, and you trade McCarthy for a top 3, top 6, top 7 pick, and you add a premier player to this roster. That's a very interesting scenario.
For sure, bro. For sure.
All right, that wraps up. Oh, my God.
All right, well, that's a good time to pause it, and then we can at least... All right, everybody, welcome in. It's time to do our brackets for the NFL playoffs. I'm excited after last year. It kind of flopped. This year, I have different expectations. I'm not going to be as bold as I was maybe last year. And I don't even know if it was that bold. I still feel in my heart of hearts that the Browns should have won the Super Bowl last year. It's just the ball didn't roll my way. But anyway, it's 2024. It's a new season. Or actually, it's 2025. It's a new season, a new chance to get the perfect bracket. So, starting out with the AFC, we got the Chargers beating the Texans. To me, I think they steamroll there. That's an easy matchup for them. Texans, just a lot of injuries, don't match up well. Then we go to the Ravens Steelers. I think the Ravens get it done. While that will be a close game, just too much firepower for the Steelers to deal with. Then the Bills and Broncos, another one where it's like, the Broncos can hang in there, but the Bills ultimately have the better team. Their Super Bowl window is now, so they move on. Then going to the NFC side, I got the Vikings beating the Rams. I'm not going to sleep on them anymore. I mean, that's a 14-win team. Last week goes differently. They're the 1 seed, so I think they get some revenge on the Rams from earlier in the year. And another team that will be getting their revenge is the Commanders over the Bucks. That Commanders team is a lot different from what we saw week 1. Jaden's a hell of a lot better player, and that defense is a hell of a lot better. So give me the Commanders there. And finally, to wrap up the wild card round, I got the Eagles steamrolling the Packers here. Eagles are a complete team. They're in their Super Bowl window, where the Packers, they've just been hanging around, losing games bad the past couple of weeks. They just don't look like that team we saw last year in the playoffs. So let's move on to the divisional round. We got the Chargers Chiefs. I'm calling for the upset. I think the Chargers get it done. It's tough to beat a team 3 times. The Chargers Chiefs, both games this year were decided by a less than 1 score. I think the Chargers match up well. If they can cause some turnovers from Mahomes, where Herbert's very smart with the ball, really doesn't turn it over, the Chargers could be
What do you
walking
think
away.
the spread is in that game?
I do think the Chiefs will be like 6.5-point favorites just because it's Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the playoffs. But ultimately, I have some faith in the Chargers, and it will set us up for the Harbaugh Bowl. Give me the Ravens over the Bills.
Nice, the Harbaugh.
Finally break through here. Lamar gets it done, and guess what? You don't have to play Patrick Mahomes, so they're happy about that. But I really do like the Ravens more than I like the Bills here. I think Lamar's the better quarterback. I think he will be the MVP. But let's get to the NFC side. I got the Lions beating the Commanders here. I just think, even with the Lions having some injuries, they just figure out a way, time in, time out. And, ultimately the Commanders, they're just happy to be here. They're happy to even be in the divisional round, but it's just too much to deal with this complete Lions team. And on the other side, I got the Eagles beating the Vikings here. Minnesota, while I do think they had a great year, Sam Darnold, whether he's the long-term answer, can have a good game here. This will be close, but the Eagles, another one that it's just like they're too complete for this Minnesota team. So let's move to the AFC side. Once again, Big Brother beats Little Bro for the 3rd time in a major game here. Looking back at the Super Bowl, Big Bro won, and now looking back at the 2024-2025 AFC Championship game, Big Bro wins again. So give me the Ravens. And Eagles Lions, I got the Eagles getting it done here. I'm sticking to my guns here. That was my preseason pick to make the Super Bowl. My actual Super Bowl winning team, unfortunately, did not make it.
Who was that? I forget.
That was the Jets. So, yeah. Not ideal. Not ideal at all. But guess what? The Eagles get it done. And we got a Bird Bowl where I have the Dirty Birds, the Philadelphia Eagles, winning here. I'm sticking to my guns. I think they're, the most complete team here. Jalen Hurts has been in a Super Bowl before where he balled out. I guess, what does that say? Oh, that's just a tiebreaker thing. But yeah, where he balled out in that Super Bowl. So I think that's going to be on his mind where it's like, hey, if I play like that again and I just don't have a costly turnover, we may be winning this game. And I like Philadelphia's defense more than I like the Ravens defense. So give me the Eagles to win and, ask me for a score projection. Sure. I think they win 30-20. So, yeah.
Wow, man, that's a cute bracket. Hopefully it goes better than last year's.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think it will. I didn't go as bold and ferocious. I guess the Chargers is bold having them in the AFC Championship game, but outside of that, it's pretty chalky, I'd say, this year.
All right, now it's time for the right bracket. We're going to start the AFC side. I also have the Chargers winning this one. As we mentioned earlier in the podcast, I just think Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh, that combo right now, I like more than CJ Stroud and DeMeco Ryans. The last time we saw this Texans team full go, week 17, they got absolutely destroyed by Baltimore. Tough limping into the playoffs like that. Just have a lot more faith in the Chargers team right now in that defense. Baltimore is going to take care of Pittsburgh. I don't care that Zay Flowers is not playing. This is going to be another Mike Tomlin special. Winning season, get to the playoffs, out in the first round. Steelers have lost 4 in a row. Baltimore just destroyed them a couple weeks ago. Give me the Ravens, easy money. Buffalo will take care of Denver. I do anticipate Denver covering the spread. I think, although Bo Nix is a rookie quarterback, he's been playing lights out recently. That passing game has been awesome. They will struggle to run the ball, I think, in this game, like they have all season. Bo Nix will keep him in it, but unfortunately, the Bills are undefeated at home this year. Josh Allen and Buffalo, just too big of a mountain to climb. In the NFC, I do have Minnesota taking care of the Rams. Little dicey, given how we just saw Minnesota play against Detroit this past weekend, while the Rams rested their starters. However, the Vikings just all season were a better team, even though they did lose to the Rams, one of their 3 losses. This team is just much better. I trust their weapons more. I trust their defense more. Brian Flores is going to fire up the blitzes. Matthew Stafford, that statue back there, will get hit and get hit often. Tampa Bay Commanders, really tough pick for me. I'm going to go with Tampa Bay. It's just very rare for rookie quarterbacks to win a playoff game in their first season. Now, Jaden Daniels is certainly a guy that can do it. This 3-point spread would not shock me at all if the Commanders won this game. But I'm going to take Baker Mayfield. Last year, they went into Philadelphia, got a big win. This team's been there. I think the emergence of Jalen McMillan and Bucky Irving are huge for this offense. And I also trust Tampa Bay's offensive and defensive lines more so than the Commanders. So give me Tampa Bay. And then I have Philly taking care of Green Bay. I don't anticipate a blowout like Reagan does. I think this is going to be a close game. I think it's going to be both teams running the football. Josh Jacobs needs to touch this ball more than 20 times for the Packers to stay in it. But ultimately, Eagles are healthier. They have more firepower on offense. They'll get the win at home. Back to the AFC. Chiefs, Chargers. I am going to go with Kansas City. I think it's really cool that you picked a Harbaugh, Reagan. It's a good storyline. It's good for the clicks. But let's be honest.
Good for the clicks. It's good for the chicks.
But let's be honest. Patrick Mahomes is not losing at home to the Chargers. I understand. They already played twice this year. Both games were close. Well, they're going to win a third time in a close one. Not going to fade Patrick Mahomes at Arrowhead. Bills, Ravens. Another really tough matchup. I went with Baltimore as well, Reagan. I just have more faith in what they have around Lamar Jackson, more so than what they have around Josh Allen in Buffalo. Derrick Henry is going to be the fuel for this team throughout the postseason. I think Derrick Henry lights up Buffalo in this one. In Buffalo, it'd be great if there was snow for this game. I mean, that would just be awesome. And I think both quarterbacks have good games, but this Ravens defense has been, since the back half of the season, really turned it around. They've become one of those elite defenses again in the league, which we anticipated. I have more faith in their defense than Buffalo, so I'm going to go with Baltimore. In the NFC, I'm going to take Detroit over Minnesota. Yes, another matchup where it's going to be the third time they played this year. Look, we just saw Detroit blow the brakes off of Minnesota in Detroit. Now they have a week to rest. Maybe David Montgomery's back in the picture here. I would not be shocked. But the Lions, I think, are just a better team. Dan Campbell's got those boys playing hard. I think it's the Lions' year. Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, a rematch of Wildcard Weekend last year. The Eagles, they got this one. They're just too good. There's no way that Baker Mayfield is going to be able to keep them in this game. I think if there's any running offense that could run all over Tampa Bay, which is a pretty damn good run defense, it would be Philadelphia's. But it's just another situation where Philadelphia's at home. It's going to be cold, and they have more firepower. So give me Philadelphia. Back to the AFC. Can Lamar finally get over the hump and beat Patrick Mahomes? No, he cannot. Not this year. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs get it done. They're back in the Super Bowl. I mean, until one of these guys upsets Mahomes on the road in Arrowhead, I'm not going to pick against the Chiefs. I'm just not going to do it. Rematch of last year's AFC Championship game. I anticipate the Ravens have a much better game plan in this one if it were to happen, because their game plan last year was disgustingly awful. However, it doesn't matter. Chiefs are just too good. In the NFC, give me Detroit. The 1 seed versus the 1 seed in the Super Bowl. You might say, oh, wow, Colin, that's very chalky. Well, you know what? I predicted this Super Bowl
wow,
before
Colin,
this
that's very chalky.
Yeah, you know what? It might be chalky, but you also, you know what? I predicted this preseason, so I'm going to stick with my guns because unlike you, I actually have both my Super Bowl teams still alive. And winning this game, the Detroit Lions. There is no three-peat. No one's ever done it for a reason. As great as Mahomes is, and as much as that offense has gotten better throughout the season, they're getting healthier. The Chiefs, it's a good time for them. This is the perfect storm for Kansas City. But I just think Detroit, it's their year, man. There's just something going on in that locker room. Dan Campbell, love the guy. Give me the Detroit Lions to win the Super Bowl. That was my preseason pick. I'm going to stick with it.
All right. I like it. Dave, you don't have to do a bracket yourself if you don't want, but what? Who you got? Who you got beating who in the Super Bowl?
Man, I really would just ride probably closer to Colin's bracket. But if I'm going to take another team other than the Lions, I'm probably going to say the Ravens get the job done this year and win the Super Bowl at plus 700.
Do you think Ravens over Lions?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Ravens over Lions. Yeah, that in that
Okay.
direction. Ravens,
Yeah, and-
Ravens, Lions, or Ravens, Eagles.
And we'll post all these on our social medias, and I know Dave was going to fill one out as well. We'll post them all on there so you guys can see them. Give us our flack in the comments. But regardless, guys, I'm excited. I don't know about you guys, but hey, let's go. It's
Playoff
playoff season.
time, baby. This is where round felt dreams of. Drops gonna catch plus 300 odd play this weekend. Let's go. Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go. I'm excited. Let's go. You got to go to your kingdom. Just pull up to MetLife to film the video.
Kingdom parking lot's just dead empty.
Okay, that's a sign to end this podcast.
Someone close us out, boys.
Hey, let's go. Playoff football. Peace.